Good day, everyone. I hope you all are doing great. I have an amazing guest with me today. We're going to be talking about, well, her reinvention. We're going to be talking about product development, which we've never talked about on this show before. So it should be very, very interesting. I'd like to introduce you to Cydney Mar. She is a founder and product development strategist who has spent 45 plus years turning product ideas into profitable brands. She designed and sold her own fashion collections on live television in 8 countries, more than 800 hours on the air, and over 300 million in global sales, working with names like Walmart, Cirque du Soleil, Holt Renfrew, and QVC. Today, at 67, she runs a proudly 100% Indigenous-owned consulting practice where she guides founders from sketch to shelf, and twice, she has rebuilt her life from scratch. And her message is simple. The best chapter is the one you haven't written yet. Welcome, Cydney.
Thank you, Angela. I'm so excited to be here, and I have been really looking forward to delving into why it's so much fun instead of fearful to have to reinvent yourself, because I've had such I'm going to say, an illustrious career, and lucky for me that I was trained in a way from skating to how to look at what I was learning in skating to be able to apply to what comes next.
Yeah, awesome. So do take us back and tell us what your background is, because I don't think we mentioned that in your intro here. You started out life as a figure skater. You had that dream.
Yes,
Take us back.
I was born and raised in Vancouver, and I fell in love with skating at the age of 6 and just kept going up, having the first skating coach, then a competitive skating coach, joining, a competitive team and skating for Canada. And at 18, in the middle of the competitions, I was in a practice, and I was had a very bad skating accident. Another skater skated into me. I had the rights of way. If you're sort of a senior, if you have your music on, you're supposed to be able to keep going. And there's I'm going to say a limited number of skaters who can be skating on the ice, depending on the size. If it's a bigger rink, a few more kids, they call them by patch size. If it's a smaller rink, it's a little bit less kids, and there's supposed to be a monitor to count how many kids, and they overloaded the rink.
Oh, no.
And I was, skating, and his leg, he had just had his skates sharpened the day before, and it just about severed the back of my leg.
Oh, my goodness.
In a lesson, doing my solo, and I hit the ice, and I'm on my stomach, and I'm like, all I could hear was a screaming, and my coach is comes over, and he literally, Angela, saves my life. But I can't imagine what he was going through, because I was his star skater. And I can't imagine him thinking like my work is like bleeding out.
Yeah.
He became literally a human tourniquet on my leg. It took 45 minutes for the ambulance to come. They had scooted me over, to the front door, on a stretcher. And, when I got to the hospital, they were like, who saved this girl's life,
Wow.
And it was Brian. And so I have a lot to thank him for. He trained us as skaters, not how to be competitive figure skaters, but how, like, everything we learned from scheduling ourselves. I mean, now I think getting up early is really rather uncivil, but for some reason, I loved skating so much. I got up at 4:30 every morning. I had to be at the breakfast table by 1:45. I had to have eaten breakfast. Then I had to go and, collect my things and wait for someone, and some skating mom was coming by to pick me up in the back alleyway with another, the car full of kids, and be on the ice for, get to the rink, be on the ice for 6 o'clock, and skate for 2 hours. So my whole life was like 15-minute increments and lessons and all of that, but we loved it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember doing sports, and I didn't do sports until I was later in life, like in my 20s. But like I go every day, and I fell in love with Muay Thai, and I trained that every day, and I loved it so much, even through all the pain and everything. Some people would look at us and say we're crazy to do that, but it's just when you fall in love with the sport, there's nothing like it. So I get it.
And you know, now even today, if I were to walk into a rink and I smell the arena, the way it smells,
Right.
and to hear the sound of the blades on the ice, it's like, oh, that's just music to my ears. So it was something that I was just much happier on the ice than I was walking. I still think, and you'll laugh when I say this, but I still think walking is a strange and a natural act. It's like
Right?
plump, plump. Like when you're on the ice, it's like shoom, shoom. Like
So elegant and effortless almost, right? I hate walking as well. I'm like, I remember my parents would always, "Let's go for a walk," and I'm like, "No," and I would always put my rollerblades on. I hated walking. It's like, "This is so boring. Walking is so boring. There's so much better ways to get around." So I totally get you, and I've always loved figure skating, but I have all the grace and elegance of heavy machinery, so that is not my style, but I always admired it for sure. I always watched it on the Olympics.
well, one day we'll have to put our rollerblades on and hit a
Hit the
pathway on
path.
the canal.
I
Yeah,
could do that for sure. I could do that. Just don't
yeah.
expect me to look really cute and elegant doing it.
We'll be all sweaty with our helmets on,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
My thing on skates, and this was roller skates. I played roller derby for 6 years, so that's my thing. Like
yeah.
more more muscle than anything else. But so that's quite the dramatic end to your career. What was going through your mind in the moments after, and then how did you move towards something rather than stay in grief as
Well,
the
you
time
know,
went
it's
by?
funny. I really went into, I am going to get better. I'm going to be healed. I'm going to go back to compete. And I treated it that way. I made sure that I was eating my vitamins, I was getting healthy. They were monitoring me through, my recovery. Luckily enough, I had very, I'm going to say, proactive doctors who went to the government, and they brought a group of doctors from the US into Canada. They did the first microneurosurgery on my leg. So they basically took my leg apart, took the bottom of the sciatic nerve, it's called the sural nerve, plunked it in, recabled my whole leg. And today I have two legs that work, not perfectly, but my plantar action, like if you were running, the plantar action is how far down your foot can go. So this foot goes perfectly, this one goes only partly.
Okay.
So my push off isn't the same on my right foot as it is on the left foot. But when you have nerve damage, it only the mylar sheath only grows back at 1 millimeter a day. So it's a long recovery. So they said it's going to take time. So I just was getting ready to, go back to the ice, and I was in physiotherapy. They put the electrodes on my leg to, keep my muscles from atrophying. And I was up at, the gyms, working out as best I could and trying not to fall down. And I did, and I would just get up. But it wasn't until I was at the rink, and one of the young skaters, my parents didn't say anything to me. The coaches didn't say anything to me. The other, I'm going to say mums and dads, it's just this one young skater said to me, finally said, "Sid, you're never going to compete again."
Whoa.
It's just like, and I went, wow. And it just was that one thing that I realized that, okay, I need to stop thinking about going back to the ice and thinking about what comes next. And luckily enough, also, because funnily, my mom was a wonderful, wonderful lady, and many, many very fondly remembered, because she has long since passed. But she couldn't sew her way out of a paper bag. And my dad had bought her this sewing machine, and she was a bookkeeper. She was always in business, and seeing her struggle trying to sew on that machine, I was like, "Ma," I was 13 at the time. I said, like stop. And so she said, okay. And I was just starting to learn how to sew at at high school, right?
Yeah.
And so she took me to one of the sewing ladies, one of the other moms, and she said to my mom, Evie, I'll give her a pattern. I'll show her how to do this and some of the hand stitches that have to happen and how to refit it. So I started learning early on how to make my own skating outfits. And then what happened was with that, I started making not only my things, but for the shows, because at the end of the competitive season, there's, the shows, the carnivals. And the other people started asking me, so Sid, can you make it for my kid, both for competition as well as for the rink? And so as I was recovering in that year, I think I had 16 kids on the podium, which meant, can you imagine how many more outfits that I had made? And I went back to school, to my old modeling school, because I'd started studying modeling at 13, and they had design and merchandising. So I went back to school and re-enrolled, like to get a proper, training. Although I was one of the weird kids that my high school, they ended up, even though it was an academic school, in our home ec, they started teaching us how to do flat pattern, fitting, all of the hand sewing, all of the couture techniques in high school, because they would give us something like an apron to sew and we would finish it in the afternoon. And so they created a new program for us. And I already had a lot of the basics by the time I went to school. So it really, with the lessons in terms of discipline and studying and all of that, it just really springboarded my career into going into fashion.
Yeah, it sounds like you were set up for this pivot in some ways, and I don't think they teach that in school anymore, in high school. The home ec stuff and the sewing. I don't think they do that anymore. That's so sad because I also can sew and have that skill as well, and I think it's a great skill to have.
Yeah.
So well, that's too bad. But so you taught yourself the business of fashion. Is that your next move that you made at 18 and
Yes.
from the ground up?
I think when I was 19, then I was in school. And then we went to New York. I won a couple of awards.
Oh, cool.
And I wasn't sure what to do. The head of my school, which was Blanche McDonald from the Blanche McDonald Institute in Vancouver, she was worried. She said, are you sure you shouldn't go into retail? Because she really wanted to set me up for success. No, Blanche, I really want to go really into design. And my dad helped me build out a small studio in our family basement. And so I had a small design studio at home. And he gave me a little bit of money and said, go buy some fabric or whatever you need to do. And I hired some people. I started a collection. There were some people from the college who were introducing me to people at the show mart to find out, because I even needed to learn, how do you write up a purchase order? I mean, I was 19, 20 and started my first company and took my collection and drove around town and said, hi, my name's Cydney. Would you like my collection?
Really?
And they bought it, and I told them like it would be ready in like 3 months, and I would start, buying the fabric and producing it. And I really learned, boots on the ground, you can read people's faces when they like it, they love it, or they hate it.
Right.
And so that's really how everything began. And I started selling to like Holt Renfrew and all of the top stores in Vancouver. Then I would get on a plane as a young girl and go to Calgary, to Edmonton, I think I went to Lethbridge, and I drove over to Victoria and went to Nanaimo. Anybody who would see me, I had my clothes,
Oh my gosh, it reminds me of, have you heard the founder's story from Spanx? You remind me of that.
I've met her.
You met her?
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible.
She's lovely. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, her story is kind of like that. Just like keep going, keep pushing until somebody, acknowledges me and puts my product into their stores kind of thing. But at 19, holy smokes, you had some grit at 19 to be doing that. Do you think your figure skating background helped you with that confidence? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that skating teaches you to be organized.
Yeah.
It teaches you determination. It teaches you to get up when you fall. I was thinking about that the other day because I recall having this discussion, being, frustrated teenager, talking to my coach. And I'm sure you've had some of those conversations where I said, like, like, when am I going to, when am I going to land my double axel? And we sort of looked at me, because I would go and I'd fall, and I'd go and I'd fall, and I'd go and I'd fall. And it was like, he said, so when you land it,
Yeah.
So he was literally giving me the choice, fall or land it,
Right. And like either keep going or quit. Like it's up to you, right?
So I think skating taught me how to keep getting up. And when they say when you're performing, that you like when you step on the ice, you need to keep your energy up, and you have to, until you're off the ice, you can't let your energy down.
Yes. We had something similar to that in kickboxing. It's like, don't let them see you're in pain. You can, or tired. You gotta just keep that to yourself until it's over.
Yeah. And when you were doing your solo or your performance, if you fell, you had to get back up.
Yeah, you do. I've seen those competitions.
Yeah. I mean, you could be going, like 90 miles an hour on your bum, and you just had to get up and pick it up and figure out where you were in your program and keep going.
Keep going and don't lose heart, because then that, that'll make you screw up again. So yeah. Well, what was that moment where you thought at 19 or 20 where it's like, hey, I think this might actually work. I might be able to pull this thing off.
I never actually, I'm maybe I'm not remembering right, but I don't recall actually having any doubts. I just recall thinking, how am I going to make this? And I've always been one of those people who's curious about how to make things. I'm an only child. I'm self-amusing. I mean, give me a piece of paper and a pencil and I can amuse myself for hours. So, or make little folded things, or I don't know, I'm very self-amusing and I'm curious. So I think curiosity is a really good thing. So I don't think I thought I would fail. It was more like, here are my things, but I did have questions along the way where it was like, I was started off in couture and high end and very happy doing my thing for about 2 or 3 years. And then I was wondering, like, how do you make 10,000? How do you make things? And also in that category, things were very expensive. So even though people were buying my things and was very successful, I was like, what do I do? Like, how do I make things that are $100 or $40, or, the things that people are like what I call now an everyday fabulous. Okay. I didn't want people to have to save and scrimp and or never be able to have those kinds of things. So I was able to bring my level of taste to less expensive things. So I kind of fired myself and went to work in, looked in the newspaper, saw someone was looking for a pattern maker because in my skill set, I could draw, I was pattern making, so I wasn't going to hire myself out as a sewer, but, as a designer, pattern maker type of work. And so I went and worked for a company called Original Blouse. And I thought, okay, well, this is cool. I'm going to learn how to make 10,000 pieces. And this is cool. They have a factory and a sewing room. And I'm a bit of a factory rat. I think it's like being a rink rat, the places that you're comfortable. So it had all of the elements of what I felt I needed. And so in the first week I'm working there, and the guy had given me some sketches of patterns to make, and I'm working at the table. And there was a salesman that walked across my open doorway, and he was like, "Hey, Sid, what are you doing there?" And I said, "I'm doing patterns." He said, "Oh, okay." And he walked into the boss's room, and he said, "Do you know who's sitting in your pattern making room?" I said, "Yeah, there's this Asian girl I hired." I said, "No, you hired Cydney Mar. Like, she's a young Canadian designer. Like, you need to hire her a pattern maker and like triple her salary, and she needs to be your designer." So I only got to do patterns for a week.
There you go.
And then they put me on a plane and I started designing their collection, and I loved it. And I do remember making what I'm going to call a 10,000 unit mistake. I had a beautiful blouse on the table and I reversed something, and I'm like, oh. And the guy's partner, his name was Jacobo, he said, okay. Said he didn't yell at me. He said, go and look at the pattern and you figure it out.
Right.
And they just stopped the cutting, and I went and I figured it out, and I saved my beautiful frilly blouse that I just didn't reverse something. And I was like, like the lessons you learn in the mistakes.
Yeah, well, at least he gave you the opportunity to learn that lesson, right, for yourself and not shame you for it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like a great opportunity that you had there. But let's talk about this, your 800 plus hours of selling on live television. That's quite incredible. What's the one thing that live TV taught you about sales that most business books never can tell us about?
What I think is really interesting is that, as I was describing to you, but about having my collection and running around to the different stores and seeing on their faces, do they like it, love it, or hate it? The customer always tells you what he or she is responding to. It's in the sale.
Yeah.
So that is what happens when you're on live TV, because you have to be pretty sure when you're working with the buyers and you're putting your name and you're putting your wallet down on what are we going to do, how can we serve these people, and what is going to sell well, because they tell you, like, you can see it, like when you're on TV for TV shopping channel, everything it's called a DPM, dollars per minute. So there's a productivity depending on what hour you're on, that they have an expectation. Like if you're on a high volume, a high productive hour, it might be $10,000 a minute. It's usually about a 52-minute hour. If it's like in the middle of the night and no one's there, it might be, I don't know, $5,000. They rate. They know what they can generate in those minutes. And I always found it fun to have the testimonials, like when they would allow a live call, and they would tell you what they like or they don't, and or they want to know, can this go together with this? So that is really the lesson. I think that people get so caught up with their ideas or their design, and they're busy at home talking to themselves or just their friends and family who might not have the courage to tell them that it's not quite right.
Right.
So I think that we need to be to stay in integrity to what we want to design or present to the world, but we also have to be honest about what the consumer is loving and responding to.
And so they had that very real time, almost like a live ticker for you to get instant feedback on what people liked and didn't like.
Yeah.
Right. What was that learning curve like for being on live TV? I mean, it sounds like you're pretty fearless. But what were the messy moments like that nobody saw when you're learning to do this thing on TV?
Well,
what was it like?
It's funny because, Angela, when you and I first talked about hopping on, we said, why don't we have a live conversation instead of, having it sort of edited, like on, say, having a TV show where they're editing to get the perfect moments. And that's really what live TV is like as well, because it's in the moment. And I mean, I have, they say that it only happens on TV. I've been where they've had to take the show off air and put in just some film because there's a fire alarm and they're evacuating the building. We've had people pass out, and we've had to, just like sometimes working with the models and then someone's down, or,
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
and how to still go with the flow and still carry the moment and make sure that you're not interrupting each other so that you can have great chats about what's happening. I remember being, I'm going to say, how teased about. There are like in the countries where they speak another language, like in Germany, and so I was speaking English. They rather you speak English because they want you to stay in the moment and to have the sort of as comfortable or as an emotional as you are, as opposed to worrying about all of your words. And so what they do is they do live translation. So they bring your voice down and the live translator's voice up.
Right.
And there are kind of segue words or phrases. So, I would say something like, and then, or, and so they started joking about, because all the people heard was the prompting words. And so all you could hear were the, and then, and then from me.
From you. Yeah.
Or, I know what it was. I was using exactly. So they actually took my film, one of the other hosts from another show where he makes fun of everybody. So he took my show and said they called it exactly. And so then they had all of these little moments where they could hear me going, oh, exactly.
Oh gosh.
Exactly.
That's fun. Thanks so much,
I said, well,
guys.
thank goodness they were only making fun of me saying exactly, as opposed to, my at least my fashions. They weren't making fun of my fashions, So, there's many things that I think that, like stepping onto the stage, making sure, that, you're presentable, that you don't have, someone with, behind you.
Right. Yeah, that would be quite nerve-wracking, but the show must go on like you just described there, right? So I'm sure everyone around you was probably used to that, and they're very used to just doing something to make the show carry on. So that's great to learn that skill, for sure. But that was the first time you reinvented yourself. So what happened the second time you needed to reinvent yourself?
Yes, well, I think it's about 14 years ago now. I was still busy with my shows. I had QVC Italia coming up. I was in Germany. I was in, I think, in Toronto in the Canadian show. And I started feeling not well. And I thought, I don't get sick. I'm a healthy person. And I thought, oh, this must be a flu. I wonder, is this what a flu feels like? But I actually caught mono.
Right.
I think I was 54 at the time. When I got mono, it literally crashed my immune system. And apparently when you're an adult, it can be pretty brutal. And I ended up in the hospital, and my doctor, I'd gone home to sort of like get in bed, and my dear friend was staying with me in my house, and she had just returned from Singapore. And so I said, I just don't feel very well. And she said, well, let's go see your doctor tomorrow. So we went to the doctor, and he said, I think if your tummy doesn't feel better in the next 4 hours, I really want to, I want you to take yourself to emergency. And that's what happened, is that I didn't feel better, went to emergency. They admitted me right away. I was going down, and I had some kind of infection that my body couldn't fight. And so with that, I think 5 days later in emergency, because they're trying to figure out what's wrong with me, like pounding me with antibiotics, they had to operate to clear out my body. And funny moment, they woke me up to sign my life away before to take me into OR. And I'm looking at the doctor, and I said, doctor, I said, if I survive, do me one favor. See this belly? I said, this belly is bikini ready. Don't.
Oh my goodness.
That's all I could think of, was like, don't cut. I said, like, if I survive, don't cut me up like a pumpkin.
Yeah, right.
And I literally, Angela, I woke up
Oh.
with 3 Band-Aids.
Okay.
But it took me 2 months to get better.
Wow.
I had hospital-acquired pneumonia. They had to drain my lungs. I had to learn how to breathe again, how to walk again. And I opened QVC Italia from my hospital room. I had to make a deal with the director so I could get on the landline, because they didn't want me on my mobile, and to welcome people to my show, because the goods were already shipped and going.
Right.
And then I thought, okay, when I got better and out of the hospital, I'm a bit of a, skinny Winnie. I'm trying to, get better. I thought it was time to start winding down things at the studio and maybe,
Right.
time to think about what was next. And what was
Wow.
next was the fact that my hair almost fell out completely. It was 65%. My hairdressers were like, oh my God, they were so scared. I mean, thank God it came out evenly.
Right.
And I mean, you've talked to me about, like when our hormones are going up and
Yeah.
down, it's really no fun. And so my naturopath created, what is now known as Fabulous Hair, Skin, and Nails, my vitamins, and it started me on it. My hair started growing back like crazy, and I thought, okay, this is what's next. And I started developing in the background this and a few other products so that I have my fabulous hair, skin, and nails. Plus, I think it's 12 items in my line now. So
Okay.
it's been selling for about 10 years. And so I thought I was going to go off into the wild blue yonder and just do my vitamins. It was going to be me
Yeah.
and my vitamins.
Yeah.
And what happened was, as soon as I closed my design studio, people started knocking on my door saying, oh, now that you're not doing your own collections, can you help me with
Right. Okay. So there's no competition there anymore so that you can help other people with theirs. Awesome.
yeah.
So, oh wow. So this health scare turned into another pivot for you, another business idea for you as you were trying to, sounds like, help yourself
Mhm.
first and turn that into a business. I think when we talked before, you also had the desire to um, like shut down what you were doing because it took so much of one-on-one time, right? And so to develop a product that kind of, was recurring revenue, and that was probably part of it too, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I
Yeah.
thought, maybe it's time for me to stay home instead,
Yeah.
because I was traveling 2 weeks of every month
Yeah.
for over 15 years. And it does take its toll. And I think I just didn't realize it. And I thought it's time for me to stay home. And now, I'm happy as a clam at home. And I can send my vitamins out to those who need it. And as we were talking about earlier, I mean, no one comes to me to be healthy. They come to me
Right.
because they're either losing their hair or losing their beauty. We have beauty products, and that's really, how I can help, because, in today's day and age, we need to show up, and we want to show up and be our very best. And that's the way I can help and support people, you
Yeah,
know.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And I know you talk about, and I love this, falling in love with your customer instead of your product.
Yeah.
And I know you help founders develop their products. So what is a question you ask founders to understand if they've done that, made that shift yet?
Well, that's such a great question. I think just to sort of talk about, like, what are we trying to do, and
Yeah.
or who are we serving, and what problem are we trying to solve? Because sometimes people have ideas like, oh, this is exactly the right idea, but we do need to work with either focus groups. We need to go back and see how people are responding. Like, have we done enough to make sure that we've tweaked it? And one of the things that I find that's really fun for us to do with our founders is, we've got ideas, and you're in branding. I mean, you know what it's like to sort of like craft the idea, but we also want to make sure that we're speaking to the right people. So as the products are being produced, not like, let's say we've got it already developed, but now it goes into production. It takes more than 5 minutes. So during, say, the 3 months it's in production, we can start warming up the audiences. Or we start warming up the audience when we're designing the thing to make sure that people are responding to it. You can do soft launches and do the tweak and then
Right.
go into higher production. So that is something that we can also do to make sure that the iterations of the products are really fine-tuned.
Okay.
Again, the customer, if they love what you have, they're going to be there, they're going to buy it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of joy. I mean, just recently I got contacted by a client who bought an Australian client who bought some trousers. That's what they call them there.
Yes, they do.
And from me, and they're totally her favorite trousers 10 years ago.
Oh,
and she said, she reached out, she said, do you have any more of these? What can I do? So I've gotten her to tell me what size. I found out which style it was. I contacted my grader. I still have the pattern. And I'm doing a little bit of research to find out, where I can get that exact fabric again, because
Wow.
it was a particular type of moss crepe. And but she wants like 10, not 10 pairs, but she wants like 4 pairs. And that's exactly what you want. You want the customer not only to buy it, but to love it and reach for it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So getting that real world feedback. But then when you get that feedback as the entrepreneur, not being so attached to what you've created that you can pivot and shift it if needed as well. I can see that might be an issue with some folks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've never been a big fan of doing patents, because I feel that so much people are attached to how much it costs to do patents. However, if it's a patentable idea, it's worth it. But you still have to massage it a little bit, because we still have to respond to how people are. We have to make sure the design there's iterations of the design to make sure it's going to sell and solve the problem even better.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. So for solopreneurs listening or entrepreneurs listening in the audience that are worried about it's too late to turn a new page, what do you know now? I think you mentioned you were 67. You look fabulous, by the way. You must be using your beauty products. What would you whisper into your 35-year-old's ear, your 35-year-old self's ear, about it being too late or going too big?
I think that there's always the time to reinvent yourself. If you're not happy with what you're doing, you can always pivot. You can always go back and look at what you're already great at, and see how it can apply to maybe what's next, and be curious about what excites you and what interests you, because whatever we do as entrepreneurs, there's going to be some crummy times. So we have to love the product idea, or what we've sort of we want to lean into. We spend most of our time doing it. So make sure that we love it enough, that we can be committed to it, and to be humble enough to sort of hear the criticism that is going to come, and to be able to parse out and understand this is, someone might be saying it because they're afraid of something.
Yes.
Or they might be saying it so we have to put all the ideas on the table and then parse out, this is ones we're going to put aside. These are the ones we're going to keep. This is true to what I'm trying to develop. And this is how I want people to feel when they get my product. So when you can get someone to feel the way you like to feel better, or to just feel more confident, whether or not it's clothing or beauty or vitamins, or something in their home that just makes it work better, those are the things we want to have. Great lives, or lives to be easier, smoother.
Yeah, and you're so right about that piece where don't listen to everybody, because those are not necessarily your customers. Those are sometimes people who have never done anything outside of the box either, and so they're projecting their own fears on you. So be sure you're in the right rooms and surrounding yourself with the right people that have been there. Like, take advice from the people that are where you want to be, not who aren't, right? Because what do they have to offer, really? They're not doing the thing that you're doing. They don't get it. So that's super important. And staying curious, like we talked about curiosity as well. Like, you have to stay curious as an entrepreneur. You're always learning new things. So if you're not into that, you're not probably going to succeed. If you're not into constantly learning, up leveling, learning new skills, like, speaking on TV, I'm sure that was a new skill at some point that we had to work through that. So those things. But that takes me into the next question that I want to ask, because you talk about when you coach with clients that you advise them to move the needle every single week rather than waiting for the perfect plan. What does moving the needle look like for someone who's got limited time and resources?
Well, one of the things, the first thing I do with my clients is I say, just download all the ideas because I don't want them to hold back. Give me everything. And I'm going to put it onto a big, chart. And it's all the things that we want to do. And I'm going to take a moment and parse out, these are the things we need to do later. These are the things we can do now, and put it on a big chart. And then when the big idea that they have is kind of mapped out into what they want to do, let's say they want to launch in 6 months or 9 months, and then we start, this is what we have to do this quarter, this is what we have to do this month, this is what we have to do this week. Right. All of a sudden the overwhelm subsides because people go into paralysis. Do I do this first? So we'll just map it out. And the other thing is, if it's written down and you didn't do it, it's not because we want to beat you up for it. It's because we want to not forget.
Yes.
And we want to move it forward. Or we need to help each other. Like, let's say that on that chart, there's me and 2 other people on it. And that person is overloaded that week. Maybe I can take it over, or it doesn't matter. We just move it forward. But that way, nothing falls through the cracks.
Yeah, that makes sense. Planning it out and having that just laid out in front of you. And I can totally feel that it would be less overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
What would you say to a founder who's like stuck on something or like failing to launch at something? Like, this is me. I'm a planner, and I get stuck in the research stage and the planning stages, and then I'm finding myself, I'm never launching because I'm always like, is it good enough? What kind of conversation do you have with them that breaks them out of that and gets them to finally just do the thing?
Well, it's funny you're talking about being a planner and all that. Like, I am happiest with my planner, and I have multiple planners, and I have highlighters, and I mark and I tick things off, and it makes me happy. So one of the things that in terms of that trajectory is, as I was saying, I call it my action plan. If you map out from the beginning where you want to be, and then you have your deliverables, it backs it into, instead of just having an idea that has like an endless horizon, because then you'll never get there. I often ask people, like, when do you want to launch? And then I have to help them figure out, is that reasonable? Does it need to go 3 months later, or can we do it earlier? And we keep checking in. But if we have the kind of overall plan, then we know what we have to do every week. Otherwise, we're not going to achieve, because I think sometimes we have ideas and we start planning the idea, but we never plan the launch. And then you wonder why a couple of years
why it's not launched. Yeah.
Exactly. And the other thing is to reorganize your week, because I think people can think, oh, I need to see my parents on Sunday. I need to do this with my kids on this day. Like, if you plan everything in and you plan your new project in, you can make sure that your work, that your day job or those extra things or the side hustle you're trying to develop, that you've carved out enough time, because if you don't, it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
It's just a wish.
Yeah, if it's not on the calendar for me, it doesn't happen. Like, my calendar is just full of time blocks for different things, right? Because it just doesn't happen. What do you see with founders who they want to launch a product? What is one thing that they're underestimating when we're taking that idea and translating it into a real world product?
How much it costs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I usually start when I'm approached by founders to develop an idea. I have, the financial conversation. Like, I always want to make sure that that they've got enough money for the roof over their head, food on the table. Is there money coming in? What's your burn rate? How much money do you really need? You can maybe tighten your belt, but I don't want them to starve, and I don't want them to worry so much or try to hurry their decisions for their product. And then we look at it like, how much money have we got? How much money have you got? It's not because I'm trying to spend all your money, because I don't want to harm them, Yeah. And so we can plan it out, because every budget, every launch, every idea can have a little launch. It can go in increments. Some people have big, deep pockets, but even if they have deep pockets, you have to plan out and respect every dollar, so that because things come up, mistakes happen. and we have to make sure there's enough room for, oh, it came out, this way or that way. So we need to have some wiggle room for it.
Yeah, or like if it's the feedback you're getting needs to be shifted, like the product needs to be shifted, or there's always things that come up that are unexpected, right? So
Yeah.
you have to have those room for those margins as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got one final question for you. What's one tool or habit or ritual that is non-negotiable for you that keeps you moving forward? Because you've done a lot in this lifetime. You've done a lot and you've faced all kinds of adversity. So what's the secret sauce there? What's non-negotiable?
I really love, um, I'm going to say my healthy boundaries, because I love giving a lot, but I'm also very conscious of the fact that, what they say, you have to sharpen the saw, or you have to make sure that, your batteries don't get too low. I try to make sure that I have do some things that amuse me. I make sure that, taking care of myself, walking my dog, who has thankfully not been barking during our chit chat.
Mine neither. It's good.
So I think that taking the time for life is just really my non-negotiable. Like, I don't want to run around. I still want to do everything, but I want to do it in a way that is peaceful and that I can hold space. So I like to make sure that there's enough time for people having schedules where they need to move things around, because life, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really healthy. And I've seen time and time again entrepreneurs wrecking their health in the name of what they're doing. And I just don't think that's the point at all. I want to be more healthy. I want to have time to go to the gym. So I build my life around the things that, like, it's like you said, like taking care of the goose that lays the golden egg. Is that the saying or whatever? Like, if there's no more health and wellness and stability here, then I can't do the thing. So I got to take care of me. Got to put my own oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
And then take care of the rest.
It's like this morning. We have workmen coming to the building, and I knew that he was coming for 9 o'clock. And I thought, because I'm slow. I'm a slow mo in the morning. I have one speed in the morning. It's slow. I putter, and I love to putter. So I woke up at 6, and I thought, but I woke up and I thought, I feel like I'm missing sleep. And because I don't overbook my mornings anyway, because I have many international clients, so I kind of work a little bit later. So I thought, no, I'm going to go back to sleep. I'm going to make sure that I feel well rested. And I thought, it's okay if I don't have makeup on at 9 o'clock in the morning to go and see the workmen around. And just made sure that I was, and I woke up at 8:30. I took my dog for a nice walk, and there you go.
Yep. Those small choices, like last night, I was hot anyway. It's hot here. I had a shower last night instead of this morning. So I just did that, went to bed instead of so I could sleep in a little bit because I just felt tired. So I like to prioritize my health. If I don't feel good, nothing happens. So I can't feel like crap and then have something wonderful come out of that place. So I'm with you there as well. Yeah. Well, tell everyone that's listening how we can find you online, how we can connect with you.
And, that's easy, because if you can spell my name and just type it in, you're going to find me. I'm pretty easy to find. So whether or not it's cydneymar.com, which is my consulting business where I help people develop products, or over at Cydney Mar Wellness if you're looking to have some healthy choices and, be either, whether or not you're an athlete or someone who just, wants to improve their health, take a peek. I've got lots of healthy recipes over there as well.
Okay, that'd be awesome. I'm going to check that out for sure. Yeah. And you are on a lot of the socials. Good for you. I will list them in the show notes. There are too many to put here, but you can be found on LinkedIn, X, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, those will be in the show notes, guys. And Cydney graciously is offering a freebie. Tell us about your free gift that people can get.
Well, as we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of people who have their own ideas. And so I really like to encourage people to bring their ideas to life if it's possible. So I am happy to hop on a call. So the link that you've put there, Angela is the one to either to read a little bit about how I can help, and a link to book a free consultation. And I also have a PDF workbook if you want to just putter around on your own. You can download it. It's from idea to income. So it'll just bring you through the steps. If you're like me, you like to print things off and scribble in, your notes and think, this is the idea. This is where I'll walk you through the basic steps so that you can have an idea of what are the things you have to go through to develop it.
Yeah, sounds like a great resource. So if you guys are thinking about creating a product, please download that resource and get in touch with Cydney through her website. Well, thank you so much, Cydney, for being here. You're a picture of resilience and courage. Amazing story. Glad I got to have you on here to share your bold moves.
Yeah, well, it's we need to go out there and live our best life, and I think that's why we all do what we do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. 100%. All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you next time on the show. Take care.
Bye for now.